Hello everybody, it's Dylan Milks here for Monday, February the 28th, 2011. Just here to kind of to talk about gold and silver for the month of February and just report on those two metals and as well as some other investments and other economic news for the month. So far for the month of February, silver has been up $6 since the beginning of February. Now that means it's up about $3 for the year, or about 10% already for the year. Just within the first 2 months, it's already up 10% this year. Gold is also up again this month. Gold has risen about $80 per ounce, or about $25 overall for the year. So that's not quite 1%, more like about 0.5% or a quarter of a percent. Nonetheless, it still is up this year for the year, and not quite as good as silver is 10%, but it still is up. So there's been a few things that have been contributing to the continued rise of silver and gold so far this year. And of course, as many of you know and have heard, the turmoils in the Middle East seem to be playing a big role in the price and the rise of gold and silver. Typically, oftentimes throughout history, when turmoil exists throughout the world, people seem to want to start buying gold and silver, kind of as a protection or as a safe haven for their money and for their investments. The other thing that obviously is going on with the turmoil in the Middle East is we see the price of oil, of course, continuing to go up above $100 a barrel now, really with no end in sight, because really the events we've seen in Egypt, starting off in Egypt, and actually starting off in Tunisia, really spread to Egypt, and of course Libya now, which is really in the center stage of the news. However, there's been other riots and other protests, fairly large protests, that haven't yet been getting the headlines of the news in other Arab countries as well. So this all seems to be playing very well into the rise of gold and silver. And I believe that as long as this continues to go on, this will definitely be one factor that's going to continue to play an influence over the price of gold and silver. The other interesting thing I want to note is that so far this year, the US dollar has lost about 3% of its value on the world stage. And of course, us Canadians here, we should be quite familiar with that, because as we look at our dollar compared to the US dollar, I believe we're now at about 101 or 102, somewhere in that range, where we're actually above equilibrium, and actually our dollar is worth more now by about a cent or two compared to the US dollar. And so the rise of the Canadian dollar against the US dollar has not just been Canada, but in fact all world currencies are pretty much have been rising against the US dollar. And as I said, the US dollar index now is pretty much a little bit under $77. It's about 76.88 or something like that, around there the last time I checked, just before this recording. So that represents from December 31st to now, that represents approximately a 3% drop in the value of the US dollar just in the first 2 months of this year. Now this is quite interesting because with the turmoil going on in the Middle East, what has happened in the past, normally what happens is that as the world political there's political issues or instability in various parts of the world, people seem to always have flocked to the US dollar, and the US dollar has actually strengthened its position relative to other world currencies during times of turmoil or times of unrest or times of uncertainty. But again, we continue to see what's happening is that there seems to be a reversal now, is that people no longer want to be investing or buying up US dollars during times of uncertainty and times of turmoil, but rather now they seem to be going more full on into gold and silver, and even obviously the oil, as we continue to see that rise. So just wanted to make some comments about that, and I think that really as long as these instabilities in the region continue to go on, which my own personal belief is that I don't think that this is going to end anytime soon. In fact, I think that very probably we could be seeing things like this continue on for really the most part of this 2011, if not all of 2011, because again, we saw it starting in Tunisia, we saw it move to Egypt, and now we're seeing the major riots and problems going on in Libya, which are getting quite violent and quite nasty. And in fact, that's why the world community has now filed sanctions against Libya. So we're seeing a lot of changes going on in the world, in the Middle East right now, and I believe this trend is going to continue for the foreseeable future. Definitely, I would guess a few months for sure, if not. My own personal thought is most of this year, I think we're going to see major changes going on in the Middle East, and again, those types of events just play well into the hand of gold and silver, especially considering that the US dollar seems to be falling during these times of turmoil and these times of uncertainty, whereas throughout all history, for the most part, the US dollar would rise during these uncertainties. So these are definitely some things to keep in mind, some things to keep on the lookout for, to see what happens as we go forward and as the months go on. And the other thing too with these protests that are going on too is that other countries have already set up groups, and protest groups in other countries have already set dates. Some in early March, some in late March, some even on into April or May, where they're planning major riots or major protests in cities, and including even in some places in Europe where they've already planned dates where they're going to be protesting various things, government cutbacks or changes to their government as well, and even some places in the U.S. And even now we're seeing these major protests going on in the States. In particular, one place is in Madison, Wisconsin, where of course there's a whole bunch of issues surrounding the teachers, and the teachers having been on strike for over a week now, and them just not refusing to work because of the fact that their state government is bankrupt, and they're still asking for major increases to their pay and to their benefits. So it'll be interesting to see, in the next few months, certainly for sure in the next few months, because Saudi Arabia has some groups in Saudi Arabia are planning a protest. I believe it's sometime towards the end of March. There's a few other Arab countries where the same thing is going to happen, as well as even in the European countries and even in the U.S. So just wanted to kind of point that out to everybody, and just kind of just ask everybody to just kind of keep your eyes open and ears open, and kind of just so we can see how this turns out. And of course, I'll always be watching the gold and silver and oil and various other commodities to see how these events are affecting their price. And again, I'm expecting that as long as this uncertainty continues, that's just going to play strong into the hand of gold and silver, and of course oil as well. So thanks everybody for watching, and have a good night. Take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.